Hi, my name is Laura Jelinek, and I'm going to be doing a presentation on the Ladakh culture. Ladakh or Ludak is how I pronounce. So this culture is an idyllic, like the most ideal culture you could probably ever think of or live in. There's patience, tolerance, and honesty are held above all other values. People always help one another, but there's no money. This was back in the day, I'll get to that. There was no money, and so there was no poverty either. They don't use currency like we do. They use like an old style of cattle or herding and trading goods and things like that. Lying, stealing, aggression, arguing is almost unknown. There's no major crime ever. And I think in our culture right now, like, just even imagining something like that is not even fathomable. So everybody is, so to say, happy no matter what. You're always happy. And that's the Ladakh culture. They live in a valley in India. It's mostly in India. And I'll show you a picture on here so that I don't have to link it really, if you can see that. This is Pakistan, China, and this is India, and this is where the Ladakh live. They live in like valleys of mountains. It's beautiful. They have, this is mostly where they live. I'll list all the places that I got these photos from below. These are mostly like their homes, and then like this is like, for example, what their culture, where they live. For us, this is like a paradise. And even just thinking about that kind of culture where there's no crime or, hatred, it's always happiness, is like I said, is something that we probably couldn't even believe. Their economy, like I said, they don't have currency. They live on small farms and they use herding. Since the 1970s, though, tourism has come to their land, and they're not people to be rude or cause issue because they don't like conflict and they don't believe in conflict. So because of that, when tourists came, they had no way to say they felt uncomfortable because that would be considered a kind of conflict. It's tended to weaken the traditional patterns of, no currency, so it's kind of altered. This, when I found this culture, it was one that I found, it's considered a dying culture right now because of the tourism and people constantly wanting to go there. When the Ladakh are exposed to this, exposed to other tourists who have a different appearance on life, it's changed the way that they've looked at their own culture and kind of made them feel inferior to the tourists. These changes have, like I said, weakened their traditions and caused difficulties for farmers. So, that's how they usually pay, is with cattle or goods. The way I read, again, their culture is considered peaceful, united, harmonious, free of conflict. But there is conflict occasionally, and when I read about this, it said when conflict does arise between the villagers, it's resolved by an elected head of the village, and this person is called a goba. And they listen, it's kind of like a court, they listen to both sides of the story, and make a decision on which party, maybe has to pay or make some sort of restitution. And then if a goba can't come to a final decision based on what they know, it's passed along to what's called a yulpa, or a yulpa, which is a meeting of the village men, and it said that this rarely ever happens because the Goba can usually come to a decision, because settling disputes locally is their desire to avoid like outside interference to the village. Again, because I think when like they don't like conflict, and saying that other people aren't welcome would cause some sort of conflict. Like I said, some of the tourists that go there, and there's lots of videos if you look them up on YouTube, talking about people who have taken trips there, and it was kind of hard to find a video that wasn't like 35 minutes long, because it's about their whole trip there and what they learned about the culture. And in 2012, an observer said that she felt there was a tendency for it to be like what's considered like an old style marriage, where, you know, the woman stays home, takes care of the children, keeps the house clean, and then the men, they go out and work and earn the money, which they don't really have, but the living, they earn a living. But when she went, she said that she observed a very strong sense of gender equality and strength in the women of the remote villages. So I think, and it talked about how they raise their children too on this website, and again, I'll link that below. It talks a lot about how they raise their children, how their children, when they're being raised, are rarely separated from the families, and instead of the children growing up like spoiled, as they put it, they were actually more willing to, you know, share and help without being, you know, compensated for helping. They were very open, kind, generous, things like that. And I thought that was surprising, because I know like in our culture where we have a tendency to just kind of maybe take our kids to school or daycare, or I personally was a nanny, so I know that, you know, being close to a mom, I can see in children when it, you know, it's kind of a bummer. They want to be with their mom, not with some stranger. Like, again, major crimes are basically unknown. Arguments are rare, and it's just kind of the way that they were raised. And there was a quote that somebody got from one of the village people. Her name was Helena Norberg Hodge, and it said that she said, "There has been no fighting in the village in living memory." So, like, the oldest person in the village couldn't even remember there being a fight. I think that's insane. Again, because the way that our culture is kind of going right now, we have a lot of crime going on. And it's actually like culture against culture kind of crime, so that kind of is a bummer. And then they also have festivals in Ladakh. Like, these people don't just, you know, I don't know, work all day. So there are festivals that are an important part of their life, such as like harvesting, because they use harvesting or their crops, they use as like a form of trade, so they use that for payment. And they celebrate that by using the head of llamas. And they celebrate New Year's too, it said. And I do have a video. I'll try and get it to like link to the end of this video and then like put it all together. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to leave a link. It's about 4 minutes long. There's no words, nobody talking. But it's a time lapse of tourists that went to Ladakh, and they did a time lapse of the time they were there. It says in the description of the video that they were there for 15 days, and it's really beautiful. It shows you kind of, it doesn't get up close to any of the villages or anything. It just shows you kind of what the Ladakh are used to living in, and like seeing, they're really close to nature. I think that was part of the reason I read that there's so much peace there. So I'll try and link that with this video. Otherwise, I'll try and like add it together. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.